What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the MadGood Knicks show. Far here, TK there, Jay over there. It's your favorite Knicks show, everyone. So let's get right
You
into
sound
it.
good, man.
Thank you. Much better than last time. Ironically enough, I don't think people liked the phone version of me, so I'm going to try something new this time and see how it works. So
the sex op.
Tom Thibodeau, hired as the New York Knicks head coach. He had official. His presser. Let's talk about that, guys. So I think some opinions have shifted just a bit when you hear more and more from Tom Thibodeau. Other things might have gone in a negative direction. I want to hear from you guys. Let's start it off. What were you excited about? You know, we can get into negatives. What were you surprised about? And overall, how it shifted your view. So, Jay, let's start with you.
Something that was surprising, and it was, I think, just comic relief, was him just making that comment towards Mark Berman.
I knew you were going to say that.
Mark, I can't believe you're still around, but to answer your question.
No, I mean, T mentioned it as soon as it happened. T sent that text. It was just a nice, just comic relief, but it also just shows to,
it validates,
of course, Thibs past. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, you're still here. I just came back. You know what I mean? So it was a cool moment at the same time. So it's nice in a way to obviously have like a familiar face come back. So in a way, you almost feel like safe in their hands, if that makes any sense.
So many players and coaches have come in and out of New York and talked about the 90s Knicks. It's good to finally have someone who was actually part of it.
And not for nothing, I think we were all wondering what Berman is still doing there. So I think it was a valid question.
Bro, I mean, I was a little bit surprised, though. Thibs went on, I feel like, a 8-minute rant of just, like, who knew who, of, like, who worked for who, and, like, this is how I got here. Like, just created this, like, spider web of things. And then he finally started talking about, like, the opportunity and how, obviously, New York is his favorite place. It's his dream job. He reiterated that multiple times. I think the most exciting thing was just seeing this in an official capacity. Like, we already knew this was going to happen. This has been part of the rumor mill, and it had so much validity
for the last 5 to 6 years. It's been part of the rumor.
Yeah, but it became an instant reality when we knew that Leon Rose is now the new president.
Yeah, you're right.
And TK said it. This was the worst kept secret in the damn league. It was just like, I felt kind of bad for Mike Miller. Just rip the Band-Aid. Just like, he should have been in Hawaii.
Jay, did you see any negatives or hear any negatives or anything call out?
No, absolutely not. I don't think there was one negative aspect about anything other than simply the fact that him and Scott Perry aren't that acquainted, and that they're just trying to figure out how they're going to, get along. I think obviously they're going to be cordial with each other, going to be professional. Obviously they have the basketball capacity because it is a small industry as well. They also spoke about that. So they know enough people that know each other that obviously spoke well of each other. But obviously it's different when you are trying to engage with that type of relationship personally.
Yeah, that one was a bit awkward. Not awkward, but I found it a slight bit disingenuous how scripted a lot of it was, and mindful it is the Knicks.
And PR, baby.
I get it. Trust me, your boy gets PR. But I one thing I don't understand is Thibs is super excited to be in New York. Obviously, this is his dream job. I don't think you needed the script for that, but alas, he had the script. Scott Perry, Leon Rose especially. This is his boy. I expected a bit more off the cuff. Granted, you're all on Zoom. Different circumstances. That was probably the only negative if I really had to call it out. I have one more, but I'll save that one for the end.
I love that Leon Rose spoke about the fact that there isn't any timeline. He's like, we're just trying to instill the culture, and essentially everything's going
First time we've really heard that, but also mindful of who Leon Rose is, who World Wide Wes is, how Thibodeau operates. I think there is a timeline.
I mean, whatever. They're saying the right things. I like it.
I mean, you would have to believe there's a time.
Of course, it's the 5-year contract. That's what my timeline is.
Whether or not they tell us is on them.
Yeah. T, what were you excited about?
To be honest, I was just excited to hear Thibs talk. He's a basketball savant in my eyes, and along with many other players, former coaches, current coaches, they'll all say the same thing. To me, he's a basketball genius. He's one of those minds that you just want to be around or want to hear him discuss the game, how he views the game. And a lot of things I thought were pretty interesting. I mean, nothing necessarily new, being as though we watched several interviews ahead of time, obviously, to get fully acquainted with him. But it was just nice to hear him kind of refamiliarize himself into the New York media, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. Any negatives from your end?
To tag along kind of what you said, man, it was extremely scripted. I know you and I were watching it simultaneously at different locations, of course. But you were like, man, why is this thing so scripted?
That it is my pleasure to present to you Coach Tom Thibodeau, new coach of the New York Knicks.
Thank you, Scott.
Moment of excitement.
I agree.
It's a moment of excitement,
It took away from it.
Granted, maybe you have the main part scripted, but maybe towards the end, you don't have to read off of a paper, ladies and gentlemen, head coach of the New York Knicks, Tom Thibodeau.
Anything you do. You want to be safe on anything you do.
I agree. And another interesting fact, to no fault of anyone's, due to the circumstances that we're in right now currently, but like Jay said, the fact that Scott Perry really didn't know Tom Thibodeau personally was very interesting, because they've been in NBA circles. Like Scott Perry said, he's been in the league or in NBA circles for 20 years now. And, he was just basically going off of word of mouth, what he heard of
making
Thibs.
it sound so much more awkward right now. It's like you knew there was one party somewhere in the NBA All-Star Weekend, and it's like, yo, you want to go hang out with Thibs? Like, nah.
I don't really know him like that.
I don't know him like that. It was like, yo, you can meet him right now. No, it's all right.
That's kind of what it felt like, man. They met maybe once before on Zoom prior to this announcement,
And it's important. I'm sure they did their due diligence and all that, but it's important because I think Scott Perry, A, he's the one link, leftover link from last year, but B, in terms of the front office, he is the guy. He's the experienced guy at front office stuff in the NBA. When you look at who's currently in the Knicks front office, it ain't Leon Rose, but the fact that Leon Rose was able to tap on a very experienced coach in Thibs made that decision, I think, a lot more easier to sit with for a guy like Perry.
Right.
Anything surprise you?
Awkward question that one reporter asked, I forgot which one, where he was like, hey, there's rumors that the front office is giving you a very specific assistant coach. Like, what's the process? That was a little bit of an awkward question. He handled it well. Like
Pudson.
Yep. He was trying to force that one.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, we have names that are on both lists. I was like, yeah, he handled it super well.
T, anything surprise you?
Yeah, again, I want to touch on what Jay said, man. I thought that was pretty interesting, and he handled it really well. The funny part about that whole scenario is I think it was in the back of all of our minds. We were like, okay, Thibs, now you're hired. Who are you selecting as part of your current staff? And it's funny how maybe about an hour, 2 hours later, news dropped that, Woodson will be joining the organization in some capacity. So I think that was a cat that kind of got out of the bag, or, rumors had circled. But, it's interesting how they're going to go about that process, right? So a lot of the guys we know, and this probably is Woodson, who they had pre-selected a name in the bag for the assistant coaching. And he has his own guys that he wants to bring in. So the meeting of the two lists, is like two guys that you want to mesh. I think it's a perfect storm, to be honest with you.
I hope so. Yeah. I agree with so far everything that's been said. I think one thing that a lot of Knicks fans were exposed to was how meticulous and detail oriented. Like, this guy is a coach, and I think Pete had said it before. He was born to coach. You could hear it in the way that he speaks about it. So
he's also surrounded himself around amazing coaches as well.
He absolutely has, and that's what he looks for in his assistants as well. What have you done? What have you done for yourself and for your career? Who have you
that's exactly what he said.
Won with, and how far have you gone, and how many championships, etc. One negative I do want to point out, and this is not just from the press conference, although it didn't exist in the press conference, but also exists in some other homework. But analytics didn't really seem to come up in the Tom Thibodeau repertoire of coaching, and that's a little bit concerning to me. And I want to preface this by saying all of this is concerning to me. Being a Knicks fan is concerning to me, and any
That's
kind
a
of
separate
legend and track record that comes into New York is concerning, because the Knicks eat legends for breakfast. But let's ignore that fact. I think analytics is obviously a big part of the game, and the fact that Thibodeau hasn't quite displayed strong use of analytics within his philosophy is slightly concerning to me. He goes by his gut, which is great. I think in one of his interviews previously, he had said, "I go by the eye test, followed by the ear test, followed by the stats." So he trusts his gut above everything. I think that there's definitely positives to that. But again, as a head coach, he hasn't won any championships.
Well, he has as an assistant.
As a head coach, let me repeat myself. As a head coach,
but I still feel like it's a valid point to bring it up as an assistant.
Absolutely.
Anytime a head coach is like calling in with the flu, who the fuck is coaching? The assistant.
I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not discrediting any part of him as an NBA coach. This is the greatest thing that has happened to the Knicks in probably roughly 10-ish years.
Since we got Carmelo.
Pretty much, yeah. But when you're talking about something that's as important as analytics, he might be the playoff coach that the Knicks need. Is he the one to take us to the championship? To be determined.
I got two things. One, I think he had a year off to reflect, and he mentioned how he was hanging out across, around the league across different
Best
mindsets.
Teams, yeah.
So just hearing also how he had the time to reflect, also had the time to take his mind off things and vacation, that's great for your mental health. He's going to come back with this, I believe, a new reconstructed philosophy.
Yeah,
I really believe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Far, you bring up a good point. Analytics wasn't part of the presser, and it doesn't seem to be a big topic of discussion. But like Jay said, you have to believe that, being that Thibs was around teams like the Rockets, the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the three teams that focus on analytics a lot. Miami being that they have Bam Adebayo and him running the point center, and what the Warriors have done with Clay and Steph and those guys, and then the Rockets doing the small ball. You have to think Thibs is tinkering with some sort of system in his head that he wants to implement given the right guys.
Yeah.
But obviously all that's contingent on who's on the roster. So
yeah. And the second thing is the fact that I kind of agree by that order system in a way. Yes, analytics is a huge freaking thing. And sometimes we look at it a little bit too much and give it too much credit because it looks beautiful across the screen. I mean, now we have a stat for everything. When you look at ESPN, just because it's a Saturday and this guy played, it's a stat. It's some new crazy thing. Only 3 people played this Saturday. Anyways, the point is someone like James Harden, when it comes to playoff time, statistically throughout the NBA season, he's doing amazing. If you go into the playoffs just expecting the same thing statistically, you know what I mean? You can go ahead, see that he may be tired, hear the things, as obviously he's going back and forth, up and down the court. It's a very intimate court now, especially.
Yeah.
These COVID courts.
Really quick. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, T.
Yeah, Jay, no, spot on. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, and we wouldn't be the MadGood Knicks show either if I didn't bring this up.
What?
But Carmelo Anthony, analytics suggested that he was done several years ago.
Yeah.
And as my eye test has allotted me to see, he is clearly not done, just given the right system and the right, surroundings and environment.
Him as well around him.
He looks pretty good. Yeah.
I think that works when you go player to player. When it comes to a head coach of a team, I'm not sure how far that's going to take him. Again, I hope that he's had some time to reflect and think about this. Last point I'll make is I know I got a lot of flack from last episode for bringing up the cliche talking points. No, the cliche talking points about running guys into the ground, doesn't really do offense that well, blah blah blah. I do want to back up one point, and one thing that is still of concern is minutes.
I got one point that's good, so I want to back it up.
I know I want to bring up this point, and that is minutes. Granted, with Karl Anthony Towns, with Andrew Wiggins, the minutes didn't fluctuate too much. I would look at guys like Jimmy Butler's minutes. I would look at guys like Derrick Rose's minutes, both on the Timberwolves and on the Bulls. I encourage everyone to go back and look at some of those smaller injuries that happen. It's still a point of concern, and
you're right.
that's a gut thing that he does. It's a heart thing.
We are so young, though. What are you worried about minutes? If you are this young and you ain't playing, you were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't belong in this league.
MVP
don't worry about
league,
injuries, bro. Just go out and play.
Youngest
go out and
MVP
play. If
in
you
the
start
league.
worrying about injuries, you're going to manifest that shit.
Tell that to Derrick Rose's career.
Bro, what do you mean? He's amazingly happy. He came back. We found him. The New York Knicks found him.
The point is he didn't have to come back. On that
Stephen
note,
Pete found him.
On that note, let us know in the comments. So after the press, are you more excited about Thibs, less excited? What are some concerns? We tried to lay it all out on the table, and everything's out there. Knicks could be headed in the right direction if they don't nick it up. Let us know.
We can absolutely nix this up.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Yo, what up, MadGood Knickso family? It's Steph over here with my brother Pete, and today we'll be talking about Tom Thibodeau's By the Numbers. Now, you know the drill. We've been doing this season after season, right? With a new coach, a new player, we usually like to take a look at their rap sheet, take a look at their record, what they've done well, what they've done poorly, and how that may translate to the New York Knicks this season. So, Pete, how's it going, my man?
Oh, it's going, my man.
It's going. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about this double T acquisition. So let's run through this rap sheet that we got here.
Yeah,
so
let's get into
kind
it.
of compiled a few of his accolades, milestones, or whatever he's done really well, right? So I'll just kind of fire through these, right? Tom Thibodeau, assistant coach of the U.S. national men's basketball team. For 3 years, he won a gold medal in 2016, right? He's helped. He's worked with various teams. Obviously, been an associate head coach, assistant head coach. Head coach, right? And he's helped those teams finish top 10 in total team defense over 15 times. In addition, he's coached over 214 playoff games in various roles. So that kind of speaks to a lot of that's a differentiating factor when it comes to having a coach like that on the Knicks. We obviously know assistant coach of the Knicks in the 1999 NBA Finals. He's been with the Knicks for 7 years. He was also the assistant coach for the Boston Celtics, won an NBA championship in 2008. And also led the Celtics as the best defensive team. He was coach of the year 2011. When we talk about his winning percentage, he's won 59% of his total games in the league, right, which speaks a lot when it comes to, our coaches, especially the coaches that we've had in the past. Timberwolves had their first playoff appearance in 14 years. Granted, hindsight is 2020. He's had some mess ups as the president of basketball ops, but, maybe that's not his particular role, and it's easy to look back and kind of judge that. We do talk a lot about Chicago Bulls and the influence that Tom Thibodeau had on the Bulls, and we could say that it was easy. He had Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, but when you think about it, Rose missed the entire 2012-2013 season, and the Bulls still finished with a 45-37 record, right, finishing fifth in the Eastern Conference. And then also he led the second year straight that the Bulls were without Derrick Rose to their fourth best record in the Eastern Conference. So I'm going to stop there. I just spoke a lot. I just gave you a whole bunch of things that Tom Thibodeau is good at. What are your thoughts, man? What do you think about it?
I love it. I love that you ran through those because I think that speaks a lot to his ability as a coach. If you look at his history as a coach, it's kind of like he was born to be a coach. He was a player at Salem College, and then right out of school, he became an assistant coach at Salem College. He did that for a couple of years, and he became head coach at Salem College when he was 25 years old. Coach at Harvard for a little bit, where he was exposed to all types of legendary NBA coaches. I could run through the list. We're talking about the Rick Pitino's, Hubie Browns, Gary Williams, Morgan Wooten's, Jim Calhoun's, where he had an insatiable appetite for basketball knowledge and coaching acumen. And I think that speaks to his coaching record because wherever he's gone, that team has gotten better. And, I'm going to run through a couple more stats to sort of bolster that sentiment. But as you mentioned before, he was in the finals with the Knicks in 1999. But one wonderful record that he had with the Knicks that's unprecedented is he set an NBA record by keeping teams under 100 points for 33 straight games. in the 2000-2001 season, and that's an incredible achievement. I know the 90s, and particularly the mid to late 90s Knicks were known for their defense, and it's nice to know that Tom Thibodeau actually had a direct hand in that. One of the things he did with the Rockets is that they were top 5 in the league in scoring defense and field goal percentage defense while he was there from 2004 to 2007. Boston, as you mentioned, where he won a championship as an associate head coach, he was hired specifically to bolster their defense, and he brought them to being the best defensive team in the league under Boston. In fact, in 2010, when he was defensive coach for the Boston Celtics, they were in the finals as well. A lot of people probably forgot that. And in the 2007-2008 finals against the Lakers, when the Boston Celtics won, Tom Thibodeau's defensive schemes are often said to be the reason that Kobe was locked down during that series and allowed them to get that championship. Yeah. So that's not something that's often mentioned. And as you mentioned, when they lost Rose, they were still able to be successful. But a lot of things that people don't realize is when Tom Thibodeau became head coach of the Bulls, he tied the record for most wins by a rookie coach at 62, and he was the fastest head coach to get to 100 games. It only took him 130 to get to that place. And again, you mentioned he coached for Team USA in 2016, helping lead them. He was assistant coach for the Team USA, helping lead the team to a 9-0 record when they won the gold medal. So I think that was impressive. And again, as you mentioned, with the T-Wolves, got them to the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. And as you were mentioning, he gets a lot of flack for the Timberwolves situation. It was a complex situation. He was actually, I think he believed in Cat and Wiggins, and he brought in Butler to kind of goad them along. But the relationships didn't work out, and as a result, the front office had to get him out of there. But if you look at what the current coach is doing, the team is actually playing at a slower pace and shooting fewer threes now than they did with Thibs. So I wouldn't attribute it all to Thibs, and I don't think Cat and Wiggins have necessarily prospered post Thibs. So I would question that a little bit deeper. And as far as player development, one great example was when he coached Yao Ming over the summer. In the previous season, Yao Ming was averaging 18.3 points, 8.4 rebounds. Worked with Tom over the summer. Next season, he was averaging 22.3 points and 10.2 rebounds. And there were, other cases of that. Kevin Garnett has been praised him for his player development abilities. And again, the numbers speak to it. You and I are big stats guys. We like the objective analysis. It's nice to hear all the fluff that the media gives you. But when you look at the numbers, Tom, he's a proven guy. And I don't expect any less on the Knicks. So I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I fully agree with what you're saying. And, a lot of to your point, a lot of folks think of him as like a defensive coach, right? Where we've heard Van Gundy, for example, will say, well, hey, a lot of folks underestimate him from an offensive end, right? His offensive strategy is kind of undermined. We do have just a minute here, but what I wanted to do was, before we wrap this up, I kind of wanted to talk, just point out some of the quotes that some of the best coaches, the best players have had to say about Thibodeau, because I think anecdotes are important. I mean, there isn't full correlation. If anecdotes are good, that the team will do well. Of course, there's so many factors into play, but I still think that it's kind of cool to note some of the qualities that he has, right? So from Coach Krzyzewski, right? Tom is one of the great coaches on this planet. To be honest, he talked to the team more than I did. That says more to me that, as a head coach, it doesn't matter what kind of role he plays. He's going to play that basketball leader role, right? He's going to want to make sure that those players are better. Brian Scalabrine, the legend, the GOAT, right?
The White Mamba.
The White Mamba was meticulously organized. But listen to this, almost scary organized, and he reminded me of Bill Belichick. I've spent a lot of time with Belichick, and Thibodeau's got a lot of the same mannerisms, the same attention to detail that Belichick has. And that's about the highest compliment I can give someone, said Rick Pitino. Sorry, that was Rick Pitino. And then you had Brian Scalabrine. You said, Thibodeau is very similar to Bill Belichick if you ever go to Bill Belichick's practice. Every smallest detail of his practice is talked about. Every pass he has seamed, every shot he has to be quick and balanced. Every pick and roll you have to come off shoulder to hip. So I'm just thinking oh my God, if we had KP during this era, right, he could actually set a legitimate pick. But that's just one of the few, right? We've got quotes from D Rose, from Joakim Noah, from a lot of the guys who have been doing really well under his tenure. So, that's kind of, the rap sheet for Thibodeau. Was there anything else to add, man?
I mean, we could go on for hours. Maybe we could do another segment of these because there's so many stats. But yeah, I think that's it for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, man. So that does it for Tom Thibodeau, y'all. There's that rap sheet. Please add in the comments all the negative things that you have to say about this rap sheet. You can't really hate on it that much. It really speaks for itself. But we'll see how it translates to the Knicks. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace, y'all.
What's up, guys? This is your boy TK, aka John Legend, as you guys know. I want to thank you guys for watching, and please make sure you do subscribe. And if you like what you saw from previous episodes, or if you just like our faces, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. But wait, please hit that like, comment, and share as well. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.